What's up everybody, it's Park with BI Elite. In this video, we're gonna break down another awesome Power BI report. This report also comes from our previous Power BI competition. It's the winning report from Hachi Adachi. It has some really cool navigation items, some really in-depth visuals that I'm excited to break down. We're gonna get into the PBIX and we're just gonna break down the report. I'm gonna show you all the tips and tricks that the developer used when building this awesome, perfectly packaged report. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of inspiration for your next Power BI report build. Maybe you'll learn some tricks. I'll share my 2 cents on a couple of items in this as well to give you a little bit more in-depth analysis. And that's really it. If you watched the previous video that I did like this, where we broke down another winning report, it's just kind of a freestyle, just digging in and seeing what we can find out about how the developer did this. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into a quick demo of how this report interacts on the Power BI service. So here we are in the Power BI service. I've published this report up, and let's go ahead and maximize this full screen. So off the bat, this is really nice, really clean, but the best part about it, I think, is the navigation. So right now we're on the campaigns and subscribers tab. And to back up a little bit, in case you haven't watched my last couple videos, this was a winning report from our most recent competition that was based off of MailChimp data, so email marketing data. So the report developers connected to a database containing my own email marketing data and built out these really cool reports. If you do want to connect to these data sets as well, they are free for all of our training subscribers. If you want to check that out, link down below. So we are on the campaigns and subscribers tab. So that's basically all of my email campaigns I sent out, as well as subscriber growth, how many people have joined our mailing lists. So we see that we're on that tab, but we can easily click to the open performance tab and we go to that tab. Meanwhile, the campaigns and subscribers tab goes to the other side. And if we click on click performance, we've now flipped to that page and the others are over here. It almost feels like you are interacting with a book. You're just flipping through the pages of a book. It's really, really cool. So it works in both directions. It's just so well done. I don't think I've seen navigation that works quite that nicely. So we're gonna dive into that and understand exactly how he did that. A couple other things. We're also gonna break down a couple of these really nice informative visuals. There are several throughout this report that were really eye-opening to me. For example, this average open rate kind of heat map. That's really cool and really nicely done. And we'll probably dig into some of his DAX as well to see what he did behind the scenes. So with that, you kind of see how this report interacts. If you do want to play with this report yourself, it is up on our contest winners page. I'll link that in the description below. And also this PBIX you can download for yourself on that same page. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the PBIX file. And here we are. So the first thing that I want to break down is the wonderful navigation that Hachi added here. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this page. And for now, I'm going to minimize. So you can see that these buttons that you can click on. So if I go ahead and minimize this guy, so we have a bigger button behind it. So this button itself, and just so you know, this is the first time I'm actually going through this PBIX, so I'll be learning along with you. So if we look at the visualizations options here, so this is just a shape that has an action, or it actually does not have an action because we are on this campaign tab. This does not have an action to take us to that tab. But if we do want to look at the button below it, let's go ahead and minimize this even more. So this button below it is just a really large button that has an action to take us to the analysis open tab. And this is what this tab looks like. It already has the campaigns and subscribers button on the right side. We're on the open performance tab and the click performance is down below it. So if we do the exact same thing here, let me go ahead and duplicate this page. So if we create that page and we go ahead and minimize this a little bit, and I'm actually going to bring this over to the side. Oh, there's actually some layering going on. So this button here, that's gonna be a big one to take us to the analysis click tab. And then this button here, which is just a small condensed version. It's actually just a little sliver here. It's interesting that Hachi decided to make the button behind it the entire screen width. So it's not just a sliver, it's the entire screen width underneath kind of the page that you're on, but the button on the right side to take you back to the previous page is actually just the sliver. So it's layered in a very interesting way. I'll probably start doing that as well. That's a really nice touch. So the button behind it is the entire thing. The button behind that one is the entire thing as well. But as you flip to that page, this is actually just a sliver over here, and it kind of gives the effect that this is on top of this one. That's really, really nice. Oh, and you can also see that I guess what makes this feel really good is that they're all kind of different shades of green. So this campaigns and subscribers is the lightest green. It's kind of the page that you're on right now. It's open in the book. But as you go to the next one, so this maintains the same color, but this light green kind of indicates that this is on top. I guess that's how I would take it. And then click performance. You open that up. That's the darkest page. You have the other two on top. So the different colors give it kind of a 3D layer effect. And actually, if we do click on this right here, I do wonder if in itself there is a shadow. There is a shadow. So that's also something. So it's outside left. I get mixed up about where that would be. Probably to the left of this. So I just want to see on the top one, if we take this shadow, actually let's make it a white shadow. Yeah, that's what's kind of giving it a 3D layer effect even more. So there's a black shadow on the left side of each of these slivers. So this one is actually gonna have a black shadow, but the background is black in itself. So if we actually change the shadow to, say, green, yeah, you see that shadow there. I'm messing with the actual tab, but let's turn that back to black. So that's something that I'm definitely going to take from this report, the shadow effects and layering of these buttons. It's really nicely done. One other thing that I want to shout out that I like that Hachi does in all of his reports is he kind of offers information about the metrics in a color-coded form. So this not only defines how click rate is calculated, and to back up a little bit, since this is email marketing data, not everyone's going to be familiar with that. When I send an email, only a certain amount of people will open it, and only a certain amount of people will click on the links that I'm providing in those emails. So click rate, Hachi is defining as the unique click count divided by the total unique emails that were opened. So if I sent out an email campaign to 1,000 people, and let's say 100 people opened it, 100 distinct unique people opened it, and let's say only 50 people clicked, Hachi is defining click rate as 50% in that case. Another way to calculate it would be total clicks divided by total emails sent. So if 50 people clicked out of 1,000 emails, it's a 5% click rate. That's not how Hachi has defined it. And since he's defined it in this report, it makes complete sense. So it's color coded so that when you look at this right away, you know everything in this yellow or kind of dandelion color is going to be pertaining to click rate. So these two visuals here, there isn't too many visuals that follow or contain these metrics, so it's not too big of a deal. But if there were more visuals that had these three metrics, it would be very easy to understand what lines up with what. So I really like that. Again, I'm probably going to take that and do that more in my reports as well. So I want to back out to the campaign subscribers tab because I saw some really cool things here that Hachi did that maybe not everyone's going to know how to do. So this table here is a table showing all of my most recent email campaigns. It goes back a long way, has some numerical metrics such as number of emails sent, number of emails delivered. But the really cool thing, firstly, that I'm noticing just now for the first time is the report page tooltip. So we covered this in the last video, but Hachi creates these custom sized report page tooltips. Covered that in the last one, so check out the playlist and you'll see the previous video showing how to create these custom sized report page tooltips. But this tooltip specifically is special because I can tell that this is using the HTML viewer custom visual, which is a really cool visual that not everyone is aware of. So actually, let's go ahead and check that one out. So I'm gonna guess it's this TT for tooltip. And this right here has one visual on it, this HTML viewer. Let me go ahead and try to grab a corner here. I don't know if I can. There we go. So this is just the HTML viewer custom visual, and you can see it right here. And if you do want to get this, I believe you can get it from AppSource. So I am going to search for, once it pops up, give me 1 second. So I'm going to search for HTML, Yep, there it is. HTML content by Daniel Marsh-Patrick. I follow him on Twitter. Make sure you do too. He has some really good stuff. And add that to your report. And specifically what it's going to do is it's going to take HTML code and render it as it would in a web page. So that's really cool. There is a field here in, I believe, the campaigns table. It is this, let's actually find it. It is this campaign HTML. So if I look at this right here, this is HTML code that's going to render how my email campaign actually looked. So if we look here, actually let's go ahead and add a text box real quick. So I'm going to take that campaign URL, or not campaign URL, campaign HTML. So then text box, you're gonna see the beginning of what that HTML code looks like. Actually, if we hover over, we can see the entire thing, or most of it. And that's HTML code. It's actually got some CSS in there in line as well. So instead of showing the code that means nothing to anybody, you can take this HTML viewer and throw in HTML. I'm actually going to duplicate this. And instead of using the measure that Hachi uses, I'm just going to throw in campaign HTML. And let's do first. So this is just a single email campaign in HTML form that I'm sending here. I wasn't planning on this campaign to show. This looks to be a coupon code for our training over at training.baelite.com. You can use code FRIEND for 25% off. If you decide to watch this video, that's just a lucky coincidence, I guess. But yeah, this HTML viewer visual is really, really cool. And yeah, that's how he's able to selectively look at a campaign and render its HTML. So each one is going to be different. So this bulk right back to SQL was a specific campaign. It's really, really cool. So one other aspect of this table that's a really nice touch is the embedded link directly to these campaign URLs. So these campaigns are publicly accessible for anyone. So you click on that, you can actually see the campaign that I sent. It doesn't have to be authenticated or anything. But you can see that there is a URL attached to this campaign name. It's a little bit tricky on how you would set that up. You have a couple of different options to add links to your Power BI tables. So in Power BI Desktop, if we click on this table, we're going to notice that this is a campaign name that's being visualized here, but there is a conditional formatting here for a URL. So if you want to put a URL behind anything, honestly, you can format by field value and then base it on a actual URL. But specifically, let's actually take that away. I'm going to remove that conditional formatting. So it's not a URL anymore. You can't click on it. So actually, first thing, let me back up. If we go to the campaign URL field, this field right here is a text data type, but the data category specifically needs to be web URL for it to launch an actual web page from Power BI. So once you have that marked as a URL, Hachi came here, he went to conditional formatting, web URL, and then it's as easy as finding your URL column. So that was campaign URL. And now it's going to work the same way as he had it set up. So that's one way that you can add a URL to your reports. You can also add a URL directly to your table. So you see, I mean, the coloring's a little bit off, but that's a URL. I mean, yeah, you won't be able to read that too much. That's a URL. And it's kind of ugly because it's long, but you can shorten that with a URL icon if you want to. So you do that by clicking on the table. I think didn't want to click that. Let me click on the table. You get that, there we go. So you do that by going to the formatting, searching for URL, and turning on the URL icon. It always looks a little bit nicer. And you probably don't need it to be very big. So I would probably change the header name. And then you just have a little URL icon, which again is kind of hard to see, but it's just a little link icon in case you just want to have a little skinny column that launches you to that URL. But yeah, I would much rather the way that Hachi set it up with the kind of the hyperlink within the campaign name. That's really cool. I really do like one of these visuals here, this subscriber growth. So this is a stacked line chart showing the growth of my email list over time. So my first list ever was the BI Elite audience. That is the email list for people who have subscribed to my blog. If you do want to subscribe to the blog, I'll link that down in the description as well. We share Power BI tips and tricks. Also notifies you of new videos. But that list has continually grown slowly over time. Meanwhile, the training audience for our BI Elite training started a while ago, and that's, amassed a certain number of users. But you also see that these two kind of lesser email lists, Impactful, which is a side project of mine, and Live Training Interest. So those two started later. And basically you see this little kind of gap here. And I was thinking about this. There's one kind of quick way that you can kind of get rid of this gap. And this gap occurred because in May, I just decided to import a lot of users. So I amassed some emails in a third-party system, and I wanted to bring them into MailChimp. I added them, and there's 115 users as of that day. So there's this gap where it goes from blank to 115 users, and similarly it goes from blank to 103 live training interest users. So the way that you get around this is you just add a record with 0 for that previous month, and you won't have that issue. If we want to quickly go through that, this is just a really nitpicky thing, but it's nice if you want to polish the report as much as possible. So you can just basically append a 0 on top of it. So firstly, I do need to figure out what my data should actually look like. So I'm going to sort by list ID and month because I know this data. And in the list that I want to target right now is this Impactful list, this one that starts with 6/9. The first data point was in May. So I actually want to add a data point from April that's just a 0 for the number of subscribers, which is the subscribed column. And the way we do that is very easy. I'm just going to call this list growth history appends. And we're going to append this table onto the original. So you need to make sure that all your column names line up. So this first one is going to be list ID. This next one's going to be month. And the next one is going to be subscribed. So the month was 4/1/2021, and subscribed is 0. I forgot to grab that list ID, so I'm just going to give that a temporary X. And I need to click on this list. Let me go back. I'm going to click on this list and grab that guy. And open up source again. And paste that in. So now, when I come here, I'm going to firstly, I'm going to disable the load because that's unnecessary. It's just kind of an intermediate step. I'm going to append my new table that was called list growth history append. And at the very bottom, we're going to have this guy. So it's going to be that month before that first month, and it has a value of 0. And then finally, since all the data types actually imported from the SQL database, I appended this new one on, and now it's kind of messing with the data type. So I'm going to quickly Control A, highlight all columns, transform, detect data type, and we're back to normal. Very nice. So now, as I close and apply, we're going to see that this gap is going to go away. And it's basically saying, like, as of April, there were 0. Now there are 115 in May. And there we go. There's that gap. That gap goes away. We could do the same for the live training interest and the same for training audience, but unnecessary. Just wanted to kind of show that one little item there. And then next, let's go ahead and click through, because I saw some other really cool things here. Let's take a look at open performance. Yes. Someone had asked in the comments of the winner's announcement video how Hachi had created this heat map. I'm curious to see as well. So let's go ahead and copy this guy, take it onto another page. So here's the heat map. So in rows, he had added date table, date of week name. So that's just Sunday through Saturday. Hour, which is timetable hour, so from 0 to 23. And open rate. Okay, cool. So I'm going to try to recreate this just following what he has here. So we're going to have a matrix. Let's go ahead and take a look at the date table. So this date table, it's got dates from the 1st of 2020 until the end of this year. So there's the date, day of week name. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in here. So day of week name goes in the rows. And one thing I do want to note is, I just want to see how he did this. Day of week, his weekday. Okay, so this day of week name is probably sorted based on day of week, as you can see. So based on what Hachi did, he used the default weekday date to get this value, but there are specific parameters that you can apply here in case you want your day of week to show in a different order. I can never remember which one is which, but I'm going to throw in a 2 here, and it's going to basically change how this is showing. So Monday is now the first day of the week and Tuesday is the second one. So if we look here, now it's Monday through Sunday, as opposed to previously he had Sunday through Saturday. I probably would rather Sunday through Saturday. So you can either throw in a 1 or leave that alone. Just not throw in another parameter, and you have Sunday through Saturday. Just a quick little tip there. So nextly, the hours across the top. So this is timetable, hour. And the one thing that you should know about this guy, or about these two tables or columns that we just threw in, is there should not be a single relationship between these two tables. So date table is here, timetable is over here. So I don't believe that there is a relationship here. Everything looks inactive off of this timetable. So with that, basically you're able to create the entire matrix. And what I like to do when I'm testing these matrices out is I just throw in, I'm going to call this measure 1 equals 1, and I just throw this into the values. And now we have 1s across the entire thing. So from 0 through 23, we just have 1s. And it looks like there's a blank one as well. I do want to check out that timetable, see what this looks like. There's hour 0 through 23. I'm not sure where this blank comes from. Maybe blank is filtered out here. Yep, hour is not blank. Let's go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so we just have our 1s here. So see, Hachi decided to not make this, contrasting backgrounds. Not sure what style he applied. Sparse. Let's go ahead and do that. Sparse, and the headers are a certain color. I'm not actually going to do that. The styling looks really nice though. So for the value here, this is a measure that he applied called open rate. Campaigns open rate. So let's go ahead and throw that in. Campaigns open rate. Campaign opens. Let me just search for that. Open rate. Can't seem to find it. There we go. Measures. Throw that in the values. So this, as you can see by default, is only populating it where there are values. So for example, this 13th on Thursday is this value right here. So the trick that Hachi is doing here is that he's actually making it to where it's going to show data where there's no data, or kind of have a placeholder where there's no data. So let's figure out how he did that. Let's go ahead and see here. Campaigns open rates, timetable hour. So I want to make sure I did all of the same ones. Timetable hour, day of week name, campaign opens open rate, looking good. Okay, and then day of week name is not blank, he said as well. So I think we've matched him from what I can see by default. Is there some conditional formatting that's applied? Let's see. Conditional formatting, he has background color here. So color scale based on open rate, lowest value is black all the way to red. So let's go ahead and apply that. So based on open rate, color scale, I'll just kind of do what he did. I mean, it's going to be a different color, but that's okay. So from black to 48 or the highest, it looks to be 48.2%. But what he did that allows you to have all the values, I'm a little bit unsure of as of right now. So I figured that if we were using the same measure, campaign opens open rate. Yeah, it's the exact same measure. So I always forget. It's probably the show items with no data, which I actually don't use, and I probably should. Show items with no data. Show items with no data. Ah, wonderful. So that is how he did that. All right, so I just did some digging into another really masterful thing that Hachi did. One thing that I've always struggled with here with these heat map matrices is that some of the cells end up being different sizes because of the values within the cells. For example, this 18, it's wider than the others, and you can see that better if you have your grid vertical and horizontal on. So we see that these are much larger than the ones without data, and I don't think I've ever done this before, but Hachi turned off word wrap in the values, and that makes it to where they're all going to have the same width. Let me go ahead and turn the text size down as far as I can. So I'm going to turn the grid size down as small as I can. Column headers, row headers, text size. And then I'm not sure if there's a better way to do this. Hachi, please leave a comment down below. But you can just kind of make them all the same width and turn off the auto size column width. Doesn't feel right, but if it is, that's how you would do it. And one last thing here is, so if you don't want the numbers to show up, you have to conditionally format the measure or the font color in the exact same way that we did for the background color. So basically just take the black to that same red, and then they go away. And then I guess you can format as much as you want. But yeah, that's a really nice heat map matrix. I think we spent a lot of time on this one. Let's go ahead and continue on here. So one other thing I saw when I was clicking through is this GIF versus no GIF visual. I really like how Hachi adds these little tooltips on the visuals themselves. So in order to do that, go to the formatting. All the way at the very bottom, you have visual header tooltip. You have the ability to add a report page tooltip directly to this little tooltip, or you can add this tooltip text, which I think is a really nice touch on really polished reports to give a little bit more information about what this visual is saying. For example, this visual is answering the question, does an animated GIF entice recipients to click the included link? Looks like the answer is yes. More than if there is a GIF, then people will more than likely click on it more than if there were no GIF included. So one thing I'm seeing now as I look at the scatter charts, so I love scatter charts. They display a lot of information with a bunch of different dimensions if you want to. For example, we have an x-axis, a y-axis, color, size. You can group things, show that trend. There are a lot of things you can do with scatter charts. One thing that I would do for a report like this is I can see that Hachi added body text of the campaign as the legend, and every single campaign is going to have a different text body, obviously. So adding that doesn't really seem to do too much because it's basically just going to give them all different colors. I tend to like to use coloring as another dimension that will share some information about this data. So for that reason, I would take, honestly, it could be anything such as list name. And now we see our click rate versus body word count by list. So every green one is going to be the training audience. Every blue one is the BI Elite audience. Same thing with click rate trend. So instead of campaign, which is going to be unique for each data point, we can take anything else. Time sent. I'm not sure if we have something better for like hour of day. Not sure if this is connected. Let's go ahead and take a look. It might be. That looks pretty good. So hour 14. So when I sent this in the 14th hour of the day, not exactly sure what that is. We see that my click rate, what's along the x-axis? Oh, index doesn't really, I don't think that matters too much. We're looking at the y-axis here. I'm not sure if this tells us too much, but I do like to group things by color if possible. I see that Hachi did add size, or the opened, I guess open rate as size. That's pretty cool. Let's see, total number of opens as, so basically the same idea as size. So there are a bunch of different dimensions that you can plot within a single scatter chart. It's really cool. I think that's about it. We've gone pretty far on this Power BI report. So one last design item that I see that Hachi does on all of his pages, if we click on the background. So the background is black. So if I change that to yellow, we'll see that the background is actually, there might actually be some transparency for these buttons I had not noticed. So fill, yeah, it's a little bit transparent. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, gives it even more of a layering effect. So the background of the report is black, and also the wallpaper is black as well. So if I change that to red and really mess up the color scheme. So there's kind of like an extra wing on the side of the report, which is that wallpaper. And he's making that black, he's making the background black. So there's kind of this extra width to the report. I really like that. I don't know, it just feels really good. I have not done that personally. And then the filter pane, he's also colored as well with the background color, with some transparency as well. I think that might be default. So if we get rid of the transparency, that's just a black filter pane. So, I mean, I've messed up the campaigns page here, but this is how it used to look like. Looks really, really good. Hachi, you did such an amazing job with this one. I could talk about this one for a lot longer, but I think I'll end the video there. If you do like these breakdowns, these Power BI reports, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want. I'm going to keep these coming because we keep getting a lot of requests for how did the report developer create such an awesome report. And I like to kind of break down and see just all the tips and tricks that these people used. Some things I've never seen before, some things that I think should be shared with the world because they're really awesome stuff. So with that, great job again, Hachi. Hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.